Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Black Girl Iowa podcast. I'm your host, Emily, and today I'm solo today because there's a topic that I really want to talk about. It's kind of like a two for one a little bit today in the things that I'm going to talk about. But before we get into the topic of conversation, I do want to just highlight a couple of celebrations that have happened within the last month of this podcast. So, first and foremost, y'all, we have two, not one, but two amazing Black women representing the state of Iowa in the pageant world. So, Miss Abigail Batu Tiako will be representing the state of Iowa as Miss Iowa at the Miss America competition, and Mackenzie Perry will be representing Iowa in the Miss USA competition. So I do believe this is the first time ever in our state's pageant history that we have had two Black women hold these Miss Iowa titles at the same time. Big kudos to them. We have already had Abigail on the show. I am currently working to get Mackenzie on. So please be sure to stay tuned for that. As for the podcast, you guys, the podcast is in its first, oh my God, like 6 to 8 weeks at this point. I've been able to release, this will be episode number 10, which I'm really excited about. Right now on Spotify, we've got about 41 followers, 98 followers on Instagram, or no, actually on Instagram, we breached 100. So thank you so much for everyone for your support. I've received phone calls, text messages, DMs, people sharing the podcast on social media. So thank you so much for all the love and support. Again, this is my passion project. This is something that I'm really, really proud of. And I'm just so excited to share it with you. Last but not least, I'm going to pat myself on the back because you guys, I am 3 classes away from getting my master's. Yes, your girl started her third to last class. As you all know, I am currently at Drake University working on my Master of Arts in Communication. And it ain't been easy, but I'm almost there. I am still on track to graduate in December of 2024. I'm really excited. So my only ask, y'all just keep praying for me because this is not easy work, but I'm very, very excited to be doing it. So let's go ahead and get into today's topic, okay? So today I wanted to do kind of like a twofold episode here, and I'm going to be talking about two things because they do coincide with one another. First thing I'm going to talk about is my divorce. Second thing I'm going to talk about is what it is like for a Black girl to date in the state of Iowa. I have thoughts, and I am going to go ahead and throw out a disclaimer here. This podcast, this episode might hurt somebody's feelings, and if it does, oh well. I don't mean that like in a sense of I don't care, but you have to remember these are my observations as a Black woman in her late 30s, divorced, no kids, and dating. Okay? It is rough out here. These streets are truly, I don't even really know how to describe it, but we're going to get all into it. But the first part, I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about my divorce. So if you guys have been following me, if you're friends with me and things like that, you know that I filed for divorce back in the summer of 2022. The divorce was finalized in October. So to give you guys a little backstory, my ex-husband, I had been with him since I was 19. We dated on and off, basically more on than off for about 5 years. And then we got married in 2011. So overall, we were together 17 years and we were married for 11. And I did a video on my YouTube channel about this right after my divorce was finalized. But now that I'm almost 2 years divorced, the things I have to say about divorce are a little bit different. So what a lot of people really don't know, and it's really like people that I'm really close with know this about me. I had actually contemplated divorce in 2020. It was that summer, so we were still definitely knee deep in the pandemic, but I just really started to notice that spending all this time with someone that I loved and I cared about was really starting to make me realize that they were not the person that I thought they were. And it's very true. People do change over time. Nobody is going to be the same. But I think in this instance with the relationship, um, yeah, he just made like this really hard right turn into someone that was very unrecognizable to me. He started to seem a bit more angry. We would fight a lot more about things that we really wouldn't fight about prior. And unfortunately, he was still pretty insecure. And things like that, they do definitely like wear on a person after a while. So I had kind of gotten to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do this anymore. But I knew that we were in a pandemic. And so I basically stayed. And about another year went by, and I noticed that things really weren't changing. We were spending more and more time apart, even though we were in the same house. Um, at that point, we were sleeping in our own rooms. We really weren't like spending a lot of time together. And I just kept getting more and more frustrated because I really felt like, you know, I've always felt that marriage is 100-100. Everybody always says that like marriage is 50-50. That's bullshit. Marriage is 100-100. You have to bring your full and whole self into a marriage to make it work, which means you have to give 100%, right? I really felt like by the time fall 2021 hit, I was giving 150% and he was giving 50%. So at that time, I decided to go see a family friend who's an attorney. The advice that they gave me was get through the holidays. Just get through the holidays because, people tend to, desperate times call for desperate measures type deal. And people just kind of tend to not think rationally during the holidays. So I waited. And by about January, early February, I was like, okay, maybe I'm seeing a change. Nope, no change. Basically what happened, and I had a moment of clarity where I realized he was never going to support or respect me the way that I had deserved and the way that I supported and respected him. We can go ahead and just say what it was. He basically yelled at me in front of my mom. And if you guys know how much of a high regard I hold Aretha Johnson at, that's just not okay with me. And so about a week later, we weren't speaking after that happened. Basically, I asked for a divorce. 2 weeks later, I moved out. 2 months later, got the money together to pay for my divorce attorney and get the paperwork started. And I actually moved back in with my parents for about 4 months. And, it was hands down the best thing that I could have done for myself. You know, Under no circumstance did I really want to stay in a relationship where I really didn't feel valued. And then also, the other thing that I really started to realize was that, first of all, there was no way that he could love me and support me and respect me the way that I needed. And then also that it was just never going to happen. So, so that's when I decided, hey, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and cut this thing off and not do it. Um, Luckily, we did not have children. So the divorce proceedings were relatively easy. We went through, filed all the paperwork and everything like that. I got all of my information together for the divorce, including like all my financial information. And we were able to mediate the divorce in October of 2022. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about divorce that like people don't tell you. So, if anybody ever tells you that a divorce can end amicably, I feel like in the best case scenarios, yes, that can happen, but I really think that you have to be honest with yourself and the type of person you are leaving behind. I really thought that my ex-husband was going to be very supportive and understanding that this just wasn't going to work out and we were going to basically leave with what we came into the marriage with, which was nothing. Okay. He didn't have a pot to piss in, and neither did I. Okay. But It didn't work out that way. I bought our house, and he actually basically threatened me and said, um, if you don't pay spousal support, aka alimony, I'm going to take this to court and we're going to have a trial divorce. So I said, absolutely not. I got, and for the proceeds that we sold our house, I had to give him an additional like 40% of the proceeds. Him and his lawyer thought that I was going to fault on that. I absolutely did not. I went ahead and gave that extra money because at the end of the day, giving him that little bit of extra money is still going to grant me my divorce, and it's going to grant me the freedom that I want. And it absolutely did. And so, again, divorce was finalized a few weeks later. And at that point, I went ahead and, did everything I needed to do to sell the house. The house ended up being sold March of 2023. I moved into my very first solo apartment. And, me and my dog, George, we from there lived life, and we were Gucci, right? Now, that's my divorce in a nutshell. I'm not going to go too much in depth to it, just because that part of my life is over. The one thing I was actually pretty excited to do was start dating. Now, to give you guys some context, okay? I filed for divorce in the summer of 2022, okay? Me and my ex-husband were married for 11 years, and we had been together for 17. The last time I went on a date was in the year 2005, okay? I don't even think the new iPhone the very first iPhone that came out at that point. So, in the 17 years of me being with somebody, the whole world and landscape of dating changed completely. We have dating apps and just different rules that you have to play by when trying to find somebody that you want to spend time with and build a connection with. And it was something that I was looking forward to, a little scared because some of my friends had been in the dating world and had told me some of the horror stories, with all of the things that people either withhold or the things you find out about somebody after you start being with them and seeing the kind of people that they are. And so, with me being the fearless person that I am, I dove in headfirst without floaties, without a pool noodle, and without swim lessons. And y'all, I can't swim, okay? I started dating pretty, I guess in a way, like kind of fast after I left my ex-husband. I went on my first date mid to late April, and I got on a few different dating sites. And at first, it was okay. I felt like the dating scene was pretty open for the most part. I felt like, I could definitely find someone that I liked. But I quickly realized that in the dating world, for a Black woman in Iowa, whew, girl, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot to deal with. I think one of the big things that I didn't really realize and recognize is, oh man, one of the things that I really didn't realize and recognize right away is how, when you are in the dating world and when you're on dating apps, you are putting up basically kind of like, I don't want to say a facade, but you're putting your best self forward, right? You're not going in and talking about your flaws, right? So like in my dating profile, I'm, saying, hey, I'm a divorced dog mom, I'm a grad student, whatever, whatever. I'm not necessarily saying that sometimes I have crippling depression and anxiety. I'm not saying that, I have been known to eat popcorn more days for dinner than actually making a real meal, right? Or that I suck with money. I'm not saying all of those things, right? And those aren't the things that we're expecting to see in dating profiles, right? Which totally makes sense. The thing though that I didn't really realize and recognize was like a thing until I started getting into the dating world is how Black women are fetishized. Now, let me talk about that for a second. Okay. Now remember, Iowa, there are 3.1 million people that live in the state. 4.4% are Black. Okay. And basically the state is right around 89.5% white. Okay. So when I go on a dating site, the majority of men that end up liking my profile or I like theirs, the majority of them are white. Okay. And the concept of fetishization is outrageous. Having to weed through that as a Black woman and trying to decipher where, you know, they really like me for who I am and the pictures that I posted versus they just want to bag a Black girl. That is real. That is 110% real. And it's incredibly annoying. And I think that's probably the first thing that I learned in the dating sphere. I think the most commonly asked question that I get when I do match and end up conversing with a white guy is, have you ever been with a white guy? Which I think is actually like really funny because it's just like, dude, first of all, I live in Iowa. Second of all, I was married to a white guy for 11 years. And that's just such an odd thing to ask. I don't ask that question. I don't ask a white guy, oh my God, have you ever been with a Black girl? No, I'm not going to ask that question. It's stupid, right? Like that question just doesn't make sense to me. Another thing that I did not really realize and recognize about dating is how bad communication can be. To kind of tell you guys just a little bit about my experience, and mom and dad, if you're listening, aunts, cousins, uncles, things like that, I'm so sorry for if you have to hear this, but this is my podcast and I'm going to be as honest as possible. I went on a lot of dates and I basically had like the proverbial kind of like phase where dating and all of those things was kind of like in the forefront of my mind. And that's totally fine, right? But what I didn't really realize is how poor communication can be with a lot of men, even my age. I'm at a point right now where, I'm all about carrying a conversation. It is not hard to carry a conversation, even if the basis of the conversation starts with weather. But you'd be surprised the number of men that will slide in your DMs and hit you with the, what are you doing? WYD. That's it. They don't say good morning. They don't say hello. They don't say, how's it going today or anything like that. It's usually, what are you doing? You respond, and then they respond back, when we gonna fuck. That is wild to me. And it's definitely a part of poor communication. But I think the other thing that's really poor about the communication of some men, and again, I'm going to say some men. Remember, I said that this podcast is probably going to hurt some feelings, and that's totally fine. But again, this is from my experience. So I dated a guy for about 5-ish months. Okay. Really nice guy. He was a couple years younger than me. We would have a lot of fun. We would go to dinner, we go to comedy shows together, we'd watch movies. Like, we had a good time with each other. Right. But what I kind of started to notice is that the communication, it was like everything was just on his time, and I also started to really recognize and realize within myself and things that I needed to work on is that I was starting to make myself more available than I should have been, considering the fact that he was never doing the same. Right. Every time we were together and we would hang out and stuff like that, it was, oh, Emily, I think you're so great. You're one of the best things that ever happened to me, this, that, and whatever. And it was like his actions would match his words when we were together, but when we weren't, they just didn't. Right. So finally, we went on a date. This was probably like November of 2020. 22. So it was a few weeks after my divorce was finalized. So we went on a date, and then I never heard from him again. Literally. I would like text and call and things like that. And I have, like, to this day, I have not heard from this guy. Right? Now, I don't really understand how you can like be with somebody and then like want to hang out with them and this like that and oh my god, you're the greatest thing in the world, and then like just not communicate with them and just ghost them. The whole thing concept of ghosting, in all honesty, it's fear. Like, we are so preconditioned that we don't want to make people upset, but also we don't want to be honest when people just aren't compatible with us, and then ghosting happens and it's super hurtful and it sucks. And like, for me to be ghosted, like, I didn't like it. I'm pretty sure I have ghosted guys in the past and I didn't really realize. So, yeah, open apology if I ghosted you. I am really sorry. But I really feel like that was crappy. Let's go ahead and just jump right into ego and toxic masculinity. Man, I did not realize how many men out there just don't like women, period. It's like everybody has like this concept where like they're getting all of their information from one of two types of sources, either like the Fresh and Fit podcast or, the musings of Harrison Bucker. Like, it makes no sense to me that you come from a woman, but yet you have no respect for a woman. Or like that one woman that cheated on you that one time, like when you were like 21, you're now going to hold that against every woman that you deal with after that. That is outrageous. Then you also have the men that, for some very odd reason, think that you aren't bettering their lives, they're bettering yours, when really they come to the table with a quarter of what you've already achieved. Let's go ahead and talk about that. That was another thing that I was just like I would go on dates and I would see these guys and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Like, the math ain't mathin'. I had a guy tell me one time that I do have like somewhat of like a cheery disposition most of the time, right? I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of stuff. And it's one of the reasons why I'm leveraging this podcast is so I can talk about those things. But I had a man tell me on a date, and I'm telling him about, me being in grad school and, and we had gone on a couple of dates and everything was really great. He then later said to me, Emily, I think life just really hasn't hit you yet. This coming from a heterosexual cisgender white man in Iowa. That life hasn't hit me yet because I have a cheery disposition. And I kind of had to like take a step back because in that moment, I kind of realized anything successful or anything that I have going on that I'm going to be proud of, he's always going to find a problem with it. So maybe this person just isn't someone that I need to be around. And in fact, they weren't. And I haven't talked to that guy since. I think also with some of the things that I've been through, some of the names that I've been called, if I don't like respond back to a Snapchat conversation, some of the things that some men have said to me, the endless amount of dick pics that I have been sent, and have slid into my DMs, or even just the number of men that just say some of the grossest, most demeaning and disrespectful things like in the starts of a conversation. This is why women pick the bear. Because at least with the bear, we know what to expect. But I feel like in my experience, a lot of men put on this facade that they're just, God's gift. And really, again, I'm going to wrestle the bear before I would ever wrestle you, because the things I don't know are far scarier than what I can expect from a bear. And I do have a more detailed explanation of that. I'm not really going to get into that right now. But that's another thing that I have really seen. I had a guy slide into my DMs and we liked each other on an app and he was cute, not gonna lie. And the only thing, he started out the conversation with, "Oh, I'd love to make a mixed baby with you." Immediately blocked. No hesitation, no nothing. Immediately blocked. So when I think about dating apps, Oh man, dating apps are exactly what they are. They are basically a yearbook of what is out there and available to date. Do I think that all dating apps are terrible? No. I just think that all depending on what you want, there are certain ones that you should probably see yourself getting into. Um, the ones that I've tried Bumble, I've tried Tinder, Hinge, I've done Facebook dating with mild success. Um, but I think with dating apps a lot of the times too, it's almost like the men on there that I've at least encountered have really tried hard to impress me when really it doesn't take that much. And I think too that there's this really weird idea out there that a woman is validated based on how she looks and what her body looks like in relation to whether or not you want to have sex with them. And that's not the case. This leads me into my next point, and this is probably like one of the number one things that I have heard from about 72 to 75% of the dates I've been on and the guys that I've met. I literally have men tell me, well, I just want to let you know I'm a very sexual person. Really? You're a sexual person? Do you have a pulse? Like, that is not a flex. It is not a flex to tell a girl that you're a very sexual person. Of course, you're sexual. Like, we all are, unless you state otherwise. Like, that literally just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't mean that, my loins are aflame for you now because you're hypersexual. If anything, that really just tells me that you are really only into sex and you are not into actually building a strong connection and a foundation with someone that you have commonalities with. So that way when it does come time for you to be intimate, the connection can be more sincere and passionate. That's what that tells me. And it's just so weird to say. That is just something I would never say to somebody. And I don't understand or know when, in fact, we actually started saying things like that to people. And that drives me nuts. Um, but, you know, I think ultimately, I know for myself, I'm very direct and very focused on what it is that I want in a future partner. And I think that one of the things that I definitely want is, first of all, I want somebody that can communicate, that can hold a conversation, someone that actually wants to have fun and go out and do things, but also someone that's going to accept my nerd. Like, I'm a huge nerd and I like nerdy things and I like crafty things. And if there's someone out there that can't do that, that's okay. You're just not for me, right? But then again, I also like sports too. So someone that could also match my sports nerd as well. And ultimately, I've talked with a lot of my friends and other women that have been in these groups, and it's really simple what it is that they want. But for some reason, men either try too hard or they don't try hard enough. And that's really been my experience with dating, unfortunately. The last thing that I will say about dating and what it's been like for me is I just really wish that mental health and wellness was encouraged for men. I mean, you know, I feel like what I have seen and what I've kind of gone through and how, we have these men out here, even ones that I've talked to and dated, if they find out that I'm divorced, if they find out that I don't have kids, if they find out that I'm in grad school, believe it or not, for some men, those are actual red flags. And for any man that thinks that any of those things is a red flag, they are fucking delusional. Do you hear me? Even if a woman isn't in grad school, has children, and is divorced, those aren't red flags either. It just means that they were in bad relationships prior and they want to find someone that is going to match where they are at and help them get to the next level. Okay? Like, I'm so tired of that. I also think too that, this whole idea of, you know, women having to be just totally kept and untouched and not sexual and all this other stuff, that's crap. And again, I have had guys tell me that, oh, you look like you have a high body count, so it's going to be a no for me. What? How can you look at me and see and know what my body count is? As if it's any of your business. Like, it is wild, some of the things that even I've been told. But also I do think too, the other layer of that is when I see men and I talk to men that had previous relationships. And, I absolutely asked the question, hey, so like what transpired? Like what happened in your divorce? Like, why did you guys break up? Because I feel like those are always good questions to kind of ask, because I'm always interested to see, has there been growth since then? I know since my divorce, I've grown a lot. And I've even learned that there are some things in my marriage that I did wrong that actually might have led to our divorce. And I can totally hold myself accountable to those things. But I have talked to a lot of guys. I've talked to a few guys in particular. Yes, I have talked to a lot of guys, but a few guys in particular that have gone through divorces. When I ask, why did you guys get a divorce? What happened? They literally will tell me, I don't know. She just walked in, said she wanted a divorce, and then we did it. What? So you're telling me that in the years or the months or whatever that you guys were together, she just sprung this divorce on you and you have no idea why she doesn't want to be with you anymore? That doesn't make any sense. And clearly you weren't paying attention. And that also tells me that you have a tendency to stick your head in the sand when things are getting hard. Um, I am positive, almost positive that is what my ex-husband tells women when he is dating them. Well, why did your ex-wife leave you? I don't know. And look, at the end of the day, it is okay, whatever. Like, that's on you. But I also feel like if you don't recognize where you might have been the problem in the relationship, you are prone to make these same mistakes in future relationships. So that is basically how I feel about dating. Now, with that, I've said all that to say, does this mean that I'm going to stop dating? No, I'm not. Like, I have definitely like taken a break for quite a bit. And I'm currently at a point right now where I feel like I'm really learning how to stand on my own 2 feet. Again, I had a situation that took place. I'm really not ready to talk about it right now, but that situation has really made me understand the importance of my independence. It's really made me remember why it is that I did decide to get out of a marriage that was no longer benefiting me or doing me any good. And so some of the things that I have definitely learned just about being single, not about dating, not about marriage, but about being single, about being a single Emily at the age of 38 living in Des Moines, Iowa. The number one thing that I have really learned and recognized in this current journey and path that I'm on in my life is that I am capable of amazing things. I think that being single is difficult at my age, but also being single and living by yourself at any age is difficult. Okay. And I really love the fact that, I can come home from work and it's just me and George hanging out. If we want to have popcorn for dinner, we'll have popcorn for dinner. If I want to go catch a movie, I'm going to go catch a movie. If I, want to go have a drink with friends, I can do all of those things. And the only person that I really have to worry about is me. And the only animal I have to worry about is my dog. Okay. And the other thing, and this just kind of goes into it as well, is, I actually like going out and doing things by myself. Just like I love to stay home and I will binge watch House of the Dragon or Superstore or Batman the Brave and the Bold. Just like I will go ahead and I'll binge watch those things and do those things by myself at home, I will absolutely take myself out to Cheesecake Factory. I will absolutely take myself to a movie. I'll go downtown and I'll go have a couple of drinks at a bar and then come home. Like, I have no problem road tripping by myself, taking myself on a little shopping spree, spa day, whatever. I really love the fact that I feel like right now I'm kind of like dating myself because I am truly relying on only myself for entertainment, for love, and also for support. And that is not something that I was able to do when I was married. The other thing I definitely do a lot and I encourage is journaling. I'm going to do an episode here probably sometime next month about journaling. And, for me, journaling has really helped me figure out a lot of my frustrations when it came to either my divorce or dating. And it's funny because sometimes I'll go back and I'll reread my old journals and I'll look at Emily when she was 36 versus Emily at 38. And I'll even say to myself, oh, girl, we're not putting up with that again. Absolutely not. But also just really understanding really where I was and how new everything was for me at that time. um, it was just really important for me to write my feelings down and to really understand what I was going through and how I learned from it moving forward. Because again, this dating world is not easy, but I also think adjusting to single life is hard as well. And having that avenue, having that creative avenue for me to really write down how I feel has really helped me get to where I am right now. Um, the last thing that I'm going to say is, and this is something that until recently I really didn't take into account a lot, but if you are single and you're living your life on your own and you're learning all the things that you love to do, all the things that you don't love, and you're really starting to learn about yourself, I also think it's really important that if you have friends, if you have family, if they say to you, hey, if you need anything, call me, text me, just do it. I really fell into this idea that with my friends, I was a burden because, I'm the single girl. I'm the one that, doesn't really have a lot going on. And so I know that like all my friends, they have amazing careers, they're married, they have children, they have other family obligations. And I honestly thought that if I would call one of my friends just to vent or send them a text message just to say hi or ask them if they want to go to a movie, I honestly kind of thought that like I was bothering them. And until recently, my friends were like, absolutely, you are not bothering us. We want to know how you're doing. We want to know what you're going through so we can support you. But also, we love and we care about you. So you're never going to be a burden. And I didn't really realize that in the first, year and a half that I was divorced and kind of doing all of this on my own. And so I've been doing a better job of reaching out to my friends. And that is the other thing that I highly encourage. Your friends care about you, your family cares about you. They want to know that you're okay. And so when you are feeling lonely, if you do just want to go see a movie or just go get coffee or something like that, pick up the phone, call them, set the date. Those are the things that I really learned, not necessarily about marriage and dating, but about being single. So that is my manifesto, the things that I just wanted to get off of my chest about me being in this current space in my life, living single, being divorced, and really trying to get through these streets when it comes to dating. Again, I am still very hopeful that my person is out there. I understand that, sometimes you got to kiss a few frogs to finally find your prince. And I will definitely tell you that with the experience and kind of everything that I've been through these last couple of years, I am at a point in my life right now where I'm getting to understand who I am, what I want, and I'm probably the happiest I've ever been. So, with that being said, I do appreciate if you sat and listened to my rambling and my musings about dating. If you want more Black Girl Iowa, make sure you head over to my website, www.blackgirliowa.com, where you can read my blog, ask questions if you have questions about what it's like being a Black Iowa girl, and then also just stay connected with me that way. I'm also on Instagram at Black Girl Iowa, so please make sure that you go and you follow. And on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music is where you can find this podcast. Make sure you guys are going, liking, following, subscribing, sharing, all of those things, as I do have some really exciting episodes coming up. All right. So, with that being said, this is Black Girl Iowa Emily signing off. Thank you again for listening, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.